Hey there, Duck fans. Welcome back to the ScoopDuck Daily. And here I am back once again, bringing you a few updates for the day. Of course, since I've last recorded, the Ducks added yet another transfer portal commitment, this time from Duke, of all schools. Nickel, Brandon Johnson. And I'm going to call him a nickel because that's what he'll play for Oregon. One of the questions I've seen the most is, does this replace other guys that Oregon is recruiting? No, Oregon was solely recruiting him to play nickel. Jabbari Muhammad, Caleb Downs, other guys that they've been recruiting, really play different positions. So this was pretty specific to Johnson, a guy they've targeted and wanted all along to play this specific position. I think this was a role that Cole Martin was taking over and destined to take over and kind of be the guy. Obviously, he opted to jump into the portal and is now gone. So I think that's why Johnson saw such a spike in priority. So a big get for Oregon. Very athletic guy, still not afraid to come up and make the tackles. I think this is going to be kind of one of those unheralded pieces that we'll be talking about this offseason. Coaches are all over the road right now. The Ducks coaches have been spotted in Florida, North Carolina, California, Arizona, Texas. You name the state, there's probably been an Oregon coach in there, and that's part of the national recruiting that the Ducks do. This is such a pivotal part for the coaches to get out there and meet high school coaches or mentors or any of these guys in that area. You can actually now interact with recruits on campus. So we've seen Dan Lanning with a few of the top 2025s out there. Seen some other coaches doing it as well. So must be something fairly new. I don't recall a press release or anything on it. Maybe it just kind of slipped in with one of the others. But yeah, it seems to be something that coaches are able to do now and is different. While we're talking about recruits, another transfer portal target, Caleb Downs entered the transfer portal. Obviously, a seismic shift in the recruiting world when basically Alabama's best player jumps in the transfer portal. On the heels of that, their starting freshman offensive tackle, Caden Proctor. I know Duck fans will remember that name. Oregon recruited him as well out of high school. He jumped in the portal. So I don't believe Oregon is a player for Caden Proctor. Great player, awesome, just not a fit. Oregon doesn't need an offensive tackle right now. They've got a Johnny Cornelius coming back and have Josh Connerly. So unless you're going to give him a starting spot, Caden Proctor's not coming. So not an option for Oregon. Caleb Downs, however, who doesn't want him? Terrific player, going to be the most coveted, possibly the most coveted transfer portal player ever. Looks like Georgia and Ohio State are battling there early on. It looks like this will not be a long recruitment. I am certain that Oregon would love to have him, would make a generous offer to try and get him. It doesn't feel like the Ducks are in the game here. If he decides to maybe not make such a quick decision, perhaps the Ducks can get in there. But I've said this already. I'll say it again. Saying that Oregon is a long shot might even be generous at this point. If I'm a betting man, I'd put in a prediction right now for Georgia because this is exactly the kind of guy that Kirby Smart doesn't lose on. So if I'm a betting man, I think he ends up at Georgia. I don't think he'll return to Alabama. Speaking of Alabama, how about Kalen DeBoer blowing up not only one but two playoff, caliber rosters? Leaves Washington, mass exodus from Washington, even with Jed Fish coming in. Alabama, I was just talking about it. Caden Proctor, Caleb Downs. Those are two of, I don't know, a dozen to 2 dozen players that have opted into the portal from Alabama. I know Nick Saban's down there, but I think Nick has probably made it pretty clear that, hey, I'm not the guy. I'll be happy to be here and help and mentor, but this is Kalen DeBoer's, job now. So clearly, this is a shift in college football where losing your head coach at a school like Alabama or Georgia or Washington or Oregon or Ohio State or Texas, it can be highly detrimental because these schools, not only do you lose your coach, you're going to lose most of your assistants as well, more than likely. You got to go replace it with another head coach. And now you don't have the luxury of taking your time finding that head coach because every day that you wait, your roster continues to blow up. Then these kids are able to jump in the transfer portal in the case specifically right now of Alabama and Washington, the transfer portal is basically closed for all the other teams. So it's not like you can go poach from Auburn or whomever that hasn't experienced a coaching change. So it really puts you at a massive disadvantage, and it's crippling. It's absolutely crippling. So, Duck fans, just be thankful it's not you. Okay. Last thing, Jabbari Muhammad, excuse me, the Washington corner on the market, is visiting Texas and Bama this weekend. We'll get a chance to go and see Kalen DeBoer in Tuscaloosa. You know, Steve Sarkisian's very dangerous when it comes to these transfer portal guys, so you've got to watch there. The early battle has been Oregon and Texas. Alabama's now jumping in the mix. Oregon's definitely in the mix here. I still think Oregon's got a slight edge over the other two, depending on how these visits go, and maybe depending on if Oregon can get him on campus or not. So we'll kind of see what transpires in the coming days. All right, thank you guys for all the support and subscribing and liking and adding to this, and we'll keep it rolling.